Hey everybody, Jeremy Weiss here with Weiss Tech Hockey, and in this video I want to do a really quick rundown on a question that has come up a few times over the past few weeks about the sagging zone, defensive zone coverage. So if you haven't watched the original video on the sagging zone coverage, I recommend you do that before coming back to this one, just because I'm not going to give a huge explanation on this. So if you want the details, the ins and outs of the setup, why the setup works, why I like it, then you can watch that in the other video. For this video, I want to address a specific question that has come up, like I said, a couple of times over the past few weeks. So here's the basic setup. Now, whenever you're in the offensive zone, different teams use different setups, obviously. And oftentimes you'll see something that looks like this. So we've got the blue guys, they're going to be our opposition. And a lot of times you see like a forward in the corner with a puck. Oftentimes you'll see a guy on the hash marks, one guy in front of the net, and then we've got our two defensemen up at the point. So what we usually like to say, and this is probably something I didn't clarify as well as I could have in the original video, it was a couple years ago, but the positions are general positions. So you need to get to your position, that's kind of your starting point, and then from there you're going to be making your making your decisions and adjusting based on what the other team is doing. So general positioning, what we usually say is strong side defense. If the puck's in the corner, strong side defenseman's on the puck, like we have him here. And then our first and foremost is we never want to be outmanned in front of our own net. So the other defenseman will go back door, centerman goes strong side post, and then we've got this is why we call it sagging zone. We've got our weak side winger sagging in the low slot. So at all times, in theory, we'll have three guys in front of the net. So we should never be outnumbered in front of the net. Now, when we talk position, there's positional and there's tactical. There's two elements that go into it. So it's one thing to be in the right position, but you also have to be doing the right thing while in the right position at the right time. So that's the positional side and then the tactical side of things. So for example, we can say, okay, the defenseman starts off by going to the back door. Well, if he goes to the back door and nobody's right there on the back door with him, well, he can stand there and say, well, I'm in the right position. Coach told me to go back door. But really what we want him to do is have his head on a swivel and look and see, is there any open man in front of the net? The first man open in front of the net is taken by the strong side or the weak side defenseman. Okay, so let's say this guy, instead of being in front of the net, he's right here. Okay, well then that weak side defenseman is going to go up, latch on, and the tactical side of things is he needs to understand where the threats are when the puck's in the corner. So when the puck's in the corner, what's the threat from this guy? The only threat is if a pass happens to thread through, the only threat is a one-time shot. So when the puck's in the corner, this defenseman needs to have his stick or it needs to have the opponent's stick tied up, so lifted, tied up, so that if a puck gets through, that guy's not going to be able to get his stick on it, right? Let's say this: so the defenseman goes to the weak side post. This guy's now over here where we kind of had him in the first place. Well, does he just stand there? No, he's going to get inside this guy, get the stick, lift it up in the air. Okay, so let's take a look at the second scenario now. Let's say that instead of that, let's say this guy. Instead of posting up on the boards here, let's say this guy's in front of the net too. So now we have two guys in front of the net. Okay, well, who takes the second guy? Defenseman's got the first one, so let's just say this guy was the first one. We'll put this defenseman on him. Okay, the winger, the weak side winger, is going to be taking the other guy. Okay, so he's going to be latching on. Again, the threat from here is stick on stick. Now, the threat from here is a one-time shot. Okay, unless they can somehow feather a pass back, to this man. But still, if the puck gets to the front of the net, the threat is the one-time shot. Okay. Now, while this is happening, this left winger needs to be aware because that does leave this guy vulnerable, leaves him as an opening, and that could be a potential pass through there, especially if this guy starts sliding in. Okay, so there needs to be some awareness there. Depending on the situation, sometimes it may make more sense for the centerman to pick up the second man in front of the net. So that leaves our weak side winger, the sag man or the emergency man as we call him, free to get out to the point if he needs to. Okay, so again, we get to the right position. We say strong side post for the centerman, but that's just the starting point. That means the attack comes in, they've rushed us, we've stopped the original threat. Now the puck's in the corner, get to your position, set up, and then read the play from there. Now here's where it starts getting, this is the question that has come in a couple times. This is the specific question. Let's say, so before I move to that, let's just reiterate again, even if they have two guys in front, we've still got three, so we're not outnumbered in front, okay? Now let me clarify the centerman's role here. This is where we need to go with this to answer these specific questions that have come in. I consider the centerman to be the third defenseman in the defensive zone. So what does that mean? That means, let's say this defenseman goes in and hits and pins. Centerman's got to be shadowy. He's got to be close enough to be able to come in, pick up the puck, and he'll be the one to initiate the breakout. Okay? So centerman is shadowing. So he goes to the post. That's his starting point. But then he's going to be reading the play. So if the defenseman knocks the puck off the stick or hits and pins and the puck's loose, yes, centerman goes in, picks it up. He initiates the breakout. What if they do this? What if they send a second man in? So they've got two guys down in the corner and we've only got one defenseman battling. Well, what's the question? Again, it becomes a numbers game. So, I say yes, the centerman goes in, helps out. Why? Why does that make sense? Why is it okay for the centerman to go in the corner? Well, because if they've got two guys in the corner, then the most they can have as far as forwards goes is one guy in front of the net. And again, it comes back to that. That's going to be our primary question. Are we outnumbering them in front of the net? Okay, so even if they do drop a second guy down, let's say this defenseman sneaks in, tries to sneak in the back door. Well, this guy's got his head on a swivel. He's going to latch on, pick up the play, right? Pick up the guy's stick, tie him up, make sure that the play is not going to get out from the corner to one of these guys in front for a shot on net. General rule that I like to say is to get in between the puck and the man that they're trying to pass to or would be trying to pass to. So get inside those opponents there. So I elaborate a little bit more on a few other possibilities here. So yes, centerman is a third defenseman. He is able to to come in if the play requires it. The only thing, and this is the thing, you got to really promote this with your players, is the defenseman or the centerman, neither of them can get beat back to the front of the net. Okay? So that is going to be like your biggest problem, is if two guys go into the corner, somehow they get beat, and now one of these guys gets past them and gets back to the front of the net while these two guys are caught in the corner. So the centerman, yes, he can go in and help, but he needs to be wary of that because the puck in the corner is not a threat compared to the puck walking out in front with these two guys getting stuck in the corner. So hopefully that part makes a little bit of sense for you. Now back to what we were talking about with tactical play, and I'm just going to set this back up how we had it. When we're talking options, and the players need to understand these options, what's going on, what are the possibilities. Let's say the puck goes back to the point. Okay, in fact, let's move this guy. Let's kind of go back to our original setup. Puck goes back to the point now. Okay. Well, now what are the possibilities? Where is the threat? Okay, so we've got our winger coming out, and we want him going out in a direct line with where the shot would be coming from, so that the guy has to, if he wants to get it to the net, he has to shoot around him. Okay, well, oftentimes you'll have at least either this guy or this guy getting to the front of the net. Oftentimes it'll be this guy. So as the puck goes back to the point, now we have a different set of possibilities from the offense. We have the possibility of a shot, in which case, what's the threat? If it's a shot that's coming through from the point, what's the threat? There's two threats. There's a tip as well as a screen. So the objective becomes different. And usually what I say here is, I didn't finish the shift. Let me finish the shift and then I'll jump back to that thought. As the puck comes out to the point, our sag man releases, okay? And he's on his way, watching and waiting for a possible D-to-D pass, and then he'll either intercept that, hopefully, or at least get there at the same time as the puck, be able to make the play, make the hit. As the puck comes back to the point, our centerman is coming out and our defenseman is retreating back to the post. Again, he needs to beat the opponent back to the post. That's the idea, is we still want to maintain that numerical advantage in front of the net. So, having said that, what is this guy? What are the two possible threats from this guy from a shot from the point? Okay, one is a deflection. Two is a screen. Okay, so now not only does this defenseman or the centerman, whoever's closest, not only does that player have to tie up the stick, but he also has to maneuver him out from the front of the net. And we call that boxing out. There's a lot of different terminology, but we call that boxing out. At least I call it that. So we want to move him out of the way as much as possible so the goalie can have a clear view of the shot, and then we also want to tie up the stick so that there's no way he's going to reach through and get a deflection or a tip on net. So that's again, tactical play. There's positional, which if the puck's at the point, the two defensemen and the centerman should be in front of the net. Yes, great. But what should they be doing there? We need to make sure we box out, because a shot from the point can either be a screen or a deflection. There's two ways that can come. And then also you factor in the possibility for a rebound after that as well. So box out, make sure they're not going to get a stick on the tip, make sure they're not going to get a stick on the rebound, and you got to be very physical in order to be effective in front of the net. So hopefully that clears up some of these questions that have come in about what does the centerman do when the puck's in the corner. I know that we draw things out, but then there's always going to be that read and react element, and sometimes it doesn't work out exactly. We always give you the textbook, right? But there's, in a game situation, there's always going to be more than one possible way that it'll happen. And, that's where, in the long term, hopefully the players learn to read and react to those situations where it doesn't happen exactly. That's where, principles come into play, tactics come into play, concepts like support and timing. Where it's, might not happen exactly as the X's and O's are drawn up, but the concept, the support concept, the support tactic is still there. Stuff like that. So anyways, what I'm saying though is as coaches, eventually the players learn to read that themselves. As coaches, we need to help teach them, as different situations happen. How are we going to react to this? How are we going to react to that? When is it okay for the centerman to go in and help? Remember, and those answers are quite simple, but you just need to break it out into, I call them key indicators, actually. Indicators where you can say, okay, when this happens, we do this. When this happens, we do this. And it should, eventually the players should be able to figure it out, and they'll be able to do it on their own eventually. But that's the clarification, I guess you could say, on the sagging zone coverage. And if this video was useful for you, though, make sure you visit us at weisstechhockey.com for more drills, skills, different product reviews and stuff like that, stuff that will help you to improve your game.